Hello and welcome again to the God is Forever Fellowship, or for those of you who prefer the acronym, the GIFF Fellowship. We appreciate you guys' time. It's always a pleasure to be able to come to you and speak about the information that's been shared with me or inspired to me. Believe it or not, today's topic is actually inspiration. Just to dive right into the topic, of course, we all know inspiration comes in many, many forms, and regardless of your religious background, beliefs, affiliation, or associations, we all can agree that the creator or the animator of all existence and all consciousness works in mysterious ways. Essentially, the ways that the creator works is beyond our general way of thinking. So the creator's reasons and the creator's methods of how he does things and even the timing behind it isn't always in agreement or within our realm of comprehension and understanding. The creator essentially has many, many things that he or she or them, for those of you who have different religions or have different beliefs or spiritualities, etc., the creator has many, many different things that either is created or is allowed to be, and the complexity that comes into interpreting inspiration is just as complex as something like the human body. The human body is a very simple yet complex machine. Not in the sense of a technical machine is metal and bolts and nuts and a computerized brain, but biologically we are designed in that way. Take for example your heartbeat. Your heart beats constantly without your brain conscientiously having to tell it to do it. Your lungs pump oxygen without you having to conscientiously think about it. Your body recovers from damage and repairs itself without you having to conscientiously think about it. If you absorb any type of damage or punishment, your body has a way of recuperating and recovering. Now, of course, there's a limit to it, but yet it still has that ability. If there's a cut, a scab develops, and eventually that cut will heal on its own without you having to conscientiously think about doing it. Likewise, there are complexities beyond that. Go outside into your yard and you take a grain of grass and you look at the complexity that went into the design of just that one piece of grass out of the millions of other grass that may sit on your land, depending on how big your location or your home may be, or your yard, or wherever it is that you may live. And you really look at it, it is very complex. If you were to take a magnification device and look at the different, the different compounds, etc., that go into that one piece of grass. So even a dead leaf that has fell out of a tree, that is one leaf that sits on a tree of thousands of other leaves, considering that there are also trillions of other trees that also carry thousands of leaves, and the ingenuity that went into that one leaf, the complexity of the design, what makes that leaf different from all other leaves. The same thing applies to human beings. Though we are all similar in the idea that we have, physical features that are, specific to human beings, aside from those who, may have experienced or may have been born with certain differences, we are all unique. Likewise, the inspirations and the reasonings and the methods in which the creator uses to inspire us will be different. That goes as far as what the creator uses, why he uses them, and ultimately the timing in which he does, because our pathways are different. In the idea of, you take a religious teaching and you apply that religious teaching to one person, and it inspires or motivates that person in one direction, even if it's not for something for their entire lifetime, but only for a moment of their life, it inspires them. And we are creatures of moments. Every moment is dependent on the moment prior to it. That's why we haven't figured out a way to time travel, because it's not essentially designed for us. Now, at some point, if the Creator gives us that ability, whether it be 100, 200, 1,000 years, a millennium, or, if we never reach that point, it is because naturally we are designed to be creatures of the moment. But the idea of the inspiration is the same, because an inspiration that impacts you today ultimately has an effect on you in the long run, because it's a part of the overall story or the overall process that builds you to be the person you will eventually become, and also the person you are now. So with that being the case, the inspirations for one teaching may work for the pathway or for the destiny that the Creator has in store for one person. Likewise, a different teaching or a different ideal may be what is best or what is the chosen option for another individual. It doesn't work the same for all of us because we are all uniquely different. If the Creator intended for us all to think the same, have the same feelings, follow the exact same guidelines, etc., then He would have designed us that way without us necessarily having a religion to do so. Likewise, inspiration works beyond just religious teachings. It doesn't have to come in the form of divine miracles. Inspiration can simply come from interacting with another person. Inspiration can come from you interacting with an inanimate object. Inspiration can also come from intuition or notion. It may come from thought. It may also come from a dream. It's an assortment of different inspirations that God uses to direct and guide us. Always. And it will differ. God may literally speak to you. Likewise, He may use a thought to trigger something within me. As in, I may be having a conversation with the person and they may say something to me that triggers a certain thought. Likewise, I could have that same conversation with a person and I may say something myself that I had not thought of in that way or in that depth. And that may trigger a certain inspiration or motivation within me, which guides and directs me. And this is something that the Creator has done, that has been allowed. Regardless of your religious backgrounds or your religious affiliations or how you were raised or what your belief system may be, we were all created by the same animator. We are allowed to exist to this day because of the same animator, regardless of what name you apply. It is the faith that you have that is most important than the name that you call your creator by. We come from different nations. We are people of different tongues. We may use the exact same terminology as referring to the Creator, but because you're from here and because I'm from there, it will naturally be different. And the Creator has worked in this way, and He has a reasoning. I don't want to say he, she, or they, or it even has a reason for this being. And this is something that we need to understand as a people, because when things aren't how our mind projects or what our brain has experienced, then we tend to believe that something may not be possible or may not be probable because it's not something that we have covered or have seen or have experienced in our lifetime, or something that we haven't heard of, or something that we don't believe. And then when that difference comes into play, then it makes it a little harder for the brain to digest the information that the Creator may have intended. And when you separate yourself, or when you have a boxed in or closed mindedness about you, you are cutting off potential inspirations that also could have a profound effect on you. It may ultimately assist you with reaching your higher potential in a way that you may not customarily do it through your relative way of thinking. If a Muslim and a Jewish person, as well as a Christian, as well as a Buddhist and a Hindu, were sitting down having a conversation, and for those of them who are closed-minded, they may not be able to reach a certain level of understanding, or even a certain level of appreciation, or even a certain level of inspiration from the information that may be provided to them, simply off of the fact of they believe something different from what the others are speaking. And if you separate yourself from that closed-mindedness, it allows you to see things how they may actually be. Because regardless, again, whether you believe it or not, or whether you believe in another person's belief system, we all have the exact same features. So unless the God of Abraham believed one thing and the God of Muhammad believed another and the God of Buddha believed something different, I'm sure if that were the case, we would be designed differently. If it were a case where they were all completely different with all different ideas, etc., but miraculously we all turned out the exact same way in that idea. But that uniqueness of your pathway is what the difference in inspirations carry weight for. I am different from you. You are different from me. So what is needed to inspire me may be different from what's needed to inspire you. It may take some type of negative idea, or a negative occurrence, rather, I should say, to motivate or inspire me as opposed to you. It may take some type of, at least from your perspective, something that can be taken as being positive to motivate or inspire you, whereas it may take something negative from me. It just works differently. And also into account of where you are at that point of life when you're being inspired. If you are considered a poor man, then something that carries some type of monetary benefit, or seeing a person who is rich with finances or wealth, seeing a person like that may be needed to inspire you to take a certain action, or may inspire a certain thought within you. Likewise, a person who is already wealthy or rich does not have to see another person who is just as rich or just as wealthy do something, and that inspires them in the same way, because they already have something that is relatable or close to what that person has. So it's not needed for them. It may take them to see a poor person, or a person who is a poor man, in order to inspire them, or inspire a certain thought, or trigger a certain motivation within them. And it's as simple as that. Inspiration just simply comes in many, many forms. And to separate yourself by religion, and to divide ourselves in that way, to whereas we cut ourselves off in not only communication, but also inspiration, knowledge, and understanding, and teaching. We only shorten ourselves. We don't shorten the Creator. We shorten ourselves. You're not shortening the next person. Well, in a sense, you are shortening the next person, because you may take information from that person who may believe something different from you, and you may go and speak to a person who shares similar beliefs to you, and because you have that understanding from outside of that box that both of you guys are contained in, you may be able to say something or show that person something that inspires them in a different way. And that's how the Creator works. But to sit down and try to figure out, or say, oh, I have it all figured out, or my religious script, or my religious beliefs, or my teacher or my teachings says or has all the answers. You can go and check into your own faith, and you'll find out that that's not possible. Because what works for you may not work for me. We are all unique creatures, no matter how similar we may be. And the inspirations that the Creator uses to inspire each of us will likewise be different per person. All right. Well, anyway, it's been a pleasure speaking with you guys. As we've said before, I apologize. As we've said before, we don't intend to hold you guys very long. We know the attention span of the modern day person is like this. So we'll go ahead and get this over with. But it's been a pleasure speaking with you guys. Again, if you have any questions, concerns, any topics of discussion you guys may want to have, or if you want to send in your actual video of yourself speaking, anything of that nature, anything relative and positive to what we have going on as far as the GIFF Fellowship or the God is Forever Fellowship, please by all means contact us at GodIsForeverFellowship@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you guys promptly. Again, it's been a pleasure. As always, I thank the Creator for what He's blessed me to do, or in what way He uses me, and I pray that you guys likewise are thankful as well for what you have and who you are, and what you'll eventually reach and accomplish in your life. All right, you guys have a great one. Bye-bye.